And a TGIF, everyone. Welcome into the First Call podcast alongside Scott Shapiro. I'm Jeremy Plonk. We're representing First Bet and Express Bet. We're going to handicap some stakes races for you this weekend. Huge weekend in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania starts today. Of course, we record our podcast on Fridays. It is Presque Isle Masters Day on the west side of the stakes in Erie up on the lake. They'll run the Presque Isle Masters this afternoon. Tomorrow, Pennsylvania Derby Day at Parx on the far end, southeast end of the state. People say, oh, Presque Isle Parx, they're on the same circuit. They're about 5 hours apart by car. So a long trip across the state of Pennsylvania for folks taking in both. But that Commonwealth swing is going to be a good one this weekend, Scott.
Yeah, you're a PA bred, right?
That's right. Absolutely.
There's a lot of lucrative races for you. Actually, as we're shortly after we're recording this on Friday, I took a look at the races at Parx later and some PA bred races. So you could be running for a lot of money if you were not a human, I guess. But
or if I wasn't tremendously slow.
Maybe that is a good point as well. I didn't know that, so maybe. But yeah, so good racing this weekend. Pennsylvania Derby, the biggest week of the year at Parx and biggest day of the year at Parx. Good racing there. Talk some Churchill, and we got a graded stakes race down at our own at Gulfstream Park.
Big week in harness, too. Yesterday, it was, of course, the Little Brown Jug at the Delaware County Fair. Mohawk Million coming up on Saturday night north of the border. So a big weekend in harness as well. For those of you watching on our video podcast channels on X or on YouTube, thank you for that. Be sure to comment in the comments section, get involved in the conversation, like, share this out, help us grow the audience for the First Call podcast. Also, for those of you on our audio traditional channels, here are the races Scott and I will handicap over the next half hour or so. For Saturday, September 20th, we're going to 3 tracks. We're starting at Gulfstream Park for the Princess Rooney. Win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. To Parx we go, aforementioned, the Gallant Bob for the 3-year-old sprinters, the Cotillion for the 3-year-old fillies, including the Kentucky Oaks winner in action, Pennsylvania Derby, and Parx Sprint, the 4 races will handicap from Ben Salem. Then to Churchill Downs will go on Saturday. 3 stakes races there for our handicapping lineup. The Harrods Creek, the Seneca, and the Dogwood for the 3-year-old fillies to wrap things up. A lot of great promos. If you're betting this weekend, be sure to do it with First Bet and Express Bet. As you see on the graphic, if you're watching, win bets get a 15% win boost Saturday at Gulfstream Park. That's right. Your win bets get a 15% win boost. You hit a winner that pays $10, you're going to get an extra 15%, $11.50 back on your $10 win. Your $10 winner, up to $20 in profit. So 15% win boost Saturday when you're betting Gulfstream Park. There's a mandatory payout Saturday in the Philly Pick 5, the Big 5 for you Philly fans out there. The Philly Big 5 is the late Pick 5 on the Saturday sequence at Parx, and Scott's ready to shoot some hoops. There's more than 200,000 in the carryover right now going into Friday's card at Parx. If nobody scoops the pool on Friday, it's a mandatory payout provision, 20%, 20 cent Pick 5. And Scott, this is going to be one of the better wagers of the weekend with that carryover pool mandatory payout. And with First Bet and Express Bet, you bet $100 on Parx Saturday, you get 10 back. So basically a 10% rebate. Putting together a $100 ticket on a Philly Pick 5 might not be a bad way to go after it on Saturday.
No, I would agree with that carryover in there. 6-figure carryover should be a really good pool. Should be a decent wagering opportunity, a really good one when it comes to horizontals on this card. And we're going to talk about 4 of the 5 races within that sequence. I have a blog up on the First Bet and Express Bet blogs that covers the other. It covers the sequence as a whole.
All right, so be sure to check that out. And also, if you're playing today on the Presque Isle Downs card, Frank Caruli's got his picks up for the Presque Isle Masters card, a Pick 3, all stakes Pick 3. Frank's got that featured for you, so check that out in our blog section at both websites. To Gulfstream Park we go. It's one of the big races of the year at Gulfstream when we get past the championship meet. In fact, it's the biggest non-championship meet race of the year at Gulfstream. The Princess Rooney $200,000 Grade 3 Sprint. Win and you're into the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. We've got some news in here. Mystic Lake was cross-entered in this race as well as at Parx and expected to run at Parx from all reports. So Mystic Lake, one of the favorites expected for the Princess Rooney, won't go, but Safi Joseph is not without a hand to play. He's got Hall and Ice in here as well as Ultimate Authority. Does this race stay with Safi even if he goes to maybe his B or C player?
He also has Claret Beret, right? So,
That's
I
right.
mean,
That's right.
yeah. I think this is I think Safi knows what he's doing. Well, I mean, Safi seems to know the condition book and to get, we've talked about it a lot with Skippy Longstocking amongst others. But I think Mystic Lake has some big wins. I think Hall and Ice doesn't, same connection. I mean, Hall and Ice
Mhm.
does, but not graded stakes. And I think that might be the goal here. Hall and Ice and sheer when the sheer drama last out, which we'll take a look at shortly. She ran second, but she was really good. They
Mhm.
cooked on the front end, 21-3, 44-1 going 7 panels at Gulfstream, and dueling in that was legitimate. And Hall and Ice, who likes to be on the lead, was just sitting in what some might think was a good spot, but was too close to the pace. She wants to
Mhm.
be up and on the lead anyhow. She was run down by Vincy Girl, who's in here as well. But this race shape's going to be a whole lot different, Jeremy. I think Hall and Ice is going to be on the lead where she likes it, and I think she's going to earn her 10th career victory.
Top three from the sheer drama, all back in a rematch. Let's turn back the clock. Pete Aiello on the call.
3/16 of a mile to run. It's Hall and Ice on the outside to take the advantage. She was close to that fast pace. Rumors have it is right there with the fresh legs down the center. Vincy Girl, final eighth of a mile. Vincy Girl rising to the occasion and takes the lead now. Back to second is Hall and Ice. Here's Nurazuri up for third. The winner of the sheer drama is Vincy Girl by 3. Second, Hall and Ice. Third from Nurazuri, and from another area code, Puckard appeared to get fourth in 124 flat.
So we try to see how that race may reshuffle the pace scenario. The reason Scott's looking to flip the results back there of the sheer drama. Claret Beret, you mentioned the other Safi Joseph in here, a horse coming out of a dull effort last time against much better, of course, in the Grade 1 Ballerina. Lost a little bit at the start momentum-wise, then tried to make it up and then was completely wilting in the stretch, as you might expect in makeup mode. Prior to that, though, the previous two starts looked pretty good on paper. The second to Vava, who's a really quality mare, maybe not as good as she was, but Vava's still high class. That second in the Chicago to her looks good. And then the one time she's been over the track here at Gulfstream Park, Claret Beret won by 19 3/4. Went all Secretariat on him for that particular race. She's got an outside post position in here. Husband's back to ride, the guy who rode her in the race at Churchill Downs. What do you make of Claret Beret in here? Do you just draw a line through the last one?
Yeah, I think you sort of have to, only because she's coming back so quickly here, right? I think
Mhm.
if something went wrong, she has a work too, a maintenance drill 4 furlongs over a wet fast going. So to me, something must have gone wrong that was, unobvious to the eye because it was bad. I mean, there were a lot of sharp people. I picked this filly that day. She got hammered down to 2-1, almost was the favorite in the race, and just really didn't fire. So if she was coming back from a long layoff, I'd be a lot more leery. That said, I do think she's going to have her running shoes on to beat her stablemate, who's going to get the jump.
Safi Joseph has him surrounded in the Princess Rooney, the race named for the 1984 Breeders' Cup Distaff inaugural winner. And Safi's got a hand to play as well in our next stakes as we move from Gulfstream Park to Parx and we go to the Gallant Bob. The Gallant Bob will be race number 12. We're going to look at races 12, 13, 14, and 15 in succession at Parx. The Gallant Bob, Grade 2 company in here, named for the 1975 Eclipse Award winning sprinter. He was based at the old Keystone, renamed Philadelphia Park, renamed Parx in its different evolutions. Ran at Penn National as well. Good Pennsylvania runner, Gallant Bob, 75 Eclipse Award winner. The 3-year-old Grade 2 stakes in his name. Has a really good field in here. Neo Equus on the far outside here, I know is your pick in here. Safi Joseph looking to take the first two on the podcast.
Yes, I guess it's in Safi we trust here to kick things off. But, this race is really strong. It's a Grade 2. Barnes is 2-1 on the morning line in here, but he's going to be potentially odds on, I would think. Coming in, Bob Baffert, the big numbers, the big barn. And he kind of, he rebounded off the disappointing St. Anita Derby, no doubt, against a really good field, a better one than he meets here in the Jerkins. My question is, the Bob Baffert runners are usually geared up, especially for a spot like that, off the layoff. So a move forward here might be asking a lot, maybe not. And I just think he's going to get a little bit over bet. If he wins this race by 3, I won't be surprised. But I think there's some interesting options in here. And it's not as if I think Barnes is unbeatable, although if he runs that race. So I think there's a couple of intriguing options that are going to probably be second and third choice. You got Retribution for Cherie DeVos, who's along the rail, which was why I didn't pick him in the end. But he's never run a bad race, and I think he's going to get an honest pace. And I think Neo Equos is going to finally get a better price than 5-2. And I think he's going to be on the outside under Irad Ortiz, sprinting, which is ideally what he wants, and a little bit off the pace, relaxing where he wants, which I think is ultimately what he'll want to do, sprinting in the end.
We're on the same page in this respect. The winner of this race, I think, is an alumnus of the Jersey Shore Stakes. But I like Donut God in here, who was second off a long layoff. This is the horse I loved going into the winter for trainer Brian Lynch. I thought Donut God was going to be a really, really important 3-year-old this year down in Tampa and staying in the shorter races. Donut God came back off the layoff in the Jersey Shore. Had been off since December to July. He took his run at Neo Equus, and then Neo Equus sloughed him off. But if he moves forward second off the layoff, I could see this result being flipped. I'm going to take a shot with Donut God. You've got Neo Equus. Let's show the fans both in action at Monmouth with Matt Dinnerman.
Neo Equos has command of the race now. Donut God, the only one with a chance to beat him. Fire Pit behind in third. Off the turn, Neo Equos has a challenge. Here's Donut God on the outside trying to catch him. Neo Equos, furlong to go, finding more on the lead. Donut God trying hard, but he's behind in second as Neo Equos opens up the lead again. And it's Neo Equos and Samuel Marin to win the Jersey Shore by 2.5 lengths.
Going to have to improve to beat him, no question. But second off the layoff is where you kind of hope to get that improvement. And that's why I'm going to take my shot with Donut God. Hopefully, the price in here is fair. Like you say, Barnes is going to help the price on all of our horses, I think, in here, as he'll be bet. As for Barnes, look, this is a horse who was all the rage coming off his first 2 starts. Then in the morning, he started getting outworked a little bit by some of the Bafferts, and some of the shine looked like it was coming off of him. His work since that good race in the Allen Jerkins where he ran third, Del Mar, 49 for a half, 5 furlongs in a minute. That's not Baffert-like. And when you watch him on video, I'm not looking at Barnes and saying he's a horse who's jumping out of his skin. And that's usually what you expect with these Bafferts coming into big races. So I'm going to think Barnes is beatable in this particular spot. Hopefully we've got the right ones. Donut God or Neo Equus, Scott?
Yeah, Donut God to me is definitely intriguing. And the price would be more where I would kind of decide whether I wanted to include in wagers. He obviously has a ton of upside, and he's going to be a bigger price than he ever has. I just don't love going to the bench and then breaking a little bit slowly at it, or breaking slowly when you're a speed horse in that next start. Now, it's very easy to make the case that he was a little bit off the layoff. He wasn't ready to break. A lot of times, though, when horses are at their best, they're more than ready to break, and they're speed
right.
So I can see it going either way. I was fond of this horse as well. In fact, he was in an unsuccessful fantasy stable of mine for the Derby, where we got points, as for the sprint races as well. So I totally wouldn't be surprised. It was just the break and then the slow break that had me slightly concerned.
Yeah, we went down that same rabbit hole in the world of fantasy. Let's go to the Cotillion Stakes, race number 13 at Parx. Mile and a 16th here, the sister race to the Pennsylvania Derby. It'll be a 16th of a mile shorter than the PA Derby. Top weight in here at 126 pounds, carried by several, including the Kentucky Oaks winner, Good Cheer. Look, Scott, she rattled off the first 7 in her career. Speed figure aficionado said she's not getting any faster, and she's not that fast to start with. Thought she might be vulnerable going into some other races. The public didn't think so as much in the Acorn at 30 cents to the dollar when she ran an absolute stinker. They stayed with her in the Alabama at 7-5. She ran second in that race to Nitrogen. LaCara, who beat her in the Acorn, is back. Nitrogen is not. Does Good Cheer get back on the beam? Does the public stay with her? She's been favored in all 9 career starts. Does she make it a 10th career time being favored, first off? And secondly, will she get back to the winner's circle?
Favoritism is going to be very interesting. I would be relatively surprised if she isn't, just because of her resume. I know Scottish Lassie ran very fast last out. 2 wins, only 1 grade, 2 grade. I just think if you're, it obviously comes down to what the computers will think when all is said and done. But I think publicly, that Good Cheer is likely to take more money. That said, I don't think it's quite as simple as these two. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know if, Scottish Lassie ran that huge race last out. 4 horses went on the front end. She's got big races in her, but she's probably going to get sent again from the inside since it worked so well from Rosario last time. And think she's going to have clear company with Lucara, potentially.
Yeah.
It's not too late if she's
Indy
fast
Bay.
enough to keep up, and Indy Bay, who has never gone this long. That's the way I'm hoping maybe this sets up. That's why I think Good Cheer is probably the likeliest winner.
Mhm.
But to me, there's a filly that I'm excited about seeing how she stacks up here because I'm high on her, been waiting to bet her in her next start. And that's number 3, Cliquot for Brandon Walsh, a filly that has done nothing wrong thus far. She got in a duel along the inside on debut and made the even money favorite down at Gulfstream during the championship meet. So she was highly regarded from the start.
Right.
And then she's run 3 bang-up races since then against lesser competition. So she gets IRAD. I think she's going to get that good trip along the inside, off the pace setters, but ahead of Good Cheer. And if she's good enough, I think she'll get that right trip, and she should be a decent price, right?
She should be. I mean, you've got the names in here. They've got to bet Lucara. They've got to bet Scottish Lassie. And we know they're going to bet Good Cheer. She can be no better than 4th choice in here. And her last 3 are all in the winner's circle, including the Indiana Derby. Bill Downs or John Dooley with the call here of the Indiana Derby.
Cliquot is right there, coming with a bid now outside of Deloraine as they try to close down top. Then GoldenEye Magic with Sturgeon Moon and Heavenly Sunsets dropped right away. 3/4 in 1 minute 10.36 seconds. And Cliquot has taken charge with 1 furlong to go. Cliquot pulling clear now by 3 from top. Then Sturgeon Moon, Deloraine, and GoldenEye Magic is next. They're close to home. A toast to Cliquot. Cliquot with a Delhi Racing Form, Indiana Oaks, and Cliquot well on top.
Of course, Indiana Oaks, not Indiana Derby. I always have Derby on the brain. So that was a good performance because she was still green in there. She's only run the 4 times. And head up, she's really not reaching out and getting down on her belly and being asked to run. She could have another gear left in her, Scott. And that's really, I think, what you're gambling on, the upside. Because some of the other horses obviously have the resume and the trophies. But I think she's got some potential in there.
No, I agree. And it feels to me like this has been kind of, the goal. I don't know. I mean, she hasn't really missed training since that race.
Right.
So, they had the options, I guess, to run it at Saratoga and opted maybe, I guess the distance was probably the difference there, right? The 1 16th grade 1 opportunity for Brandon Walsh. And, he didn't send a ton of horses to Saratoga this meet. But, yeah, I mean, she's coming in fresh. She's supposed to take a step forward here if she's as good as I think. And I don't know if I expect either of the any of the favorites to run a career best. We'll put it that way.
Let's move now to race 14 at Parx on Saturday. The main event, the Pennsylvania Derby, Grade 1, $1 million here, 1 1/8. This race has had some legitimate Grade 1 horses in it over the years and Grade 1 winners who have won it. This year, however, it is not a Grade 1 quality field. None of the horses have won a Grade 1 to this point. And when you think back to some of the Florida Derby, the prep races, the Santa Anita Derby, there are options to get Grade 1 company into 3-year-old ranks. There's probably been 8 or 10 Grade 1s already this year for just the 3-year-olds when you mix in some sprint races and middle distance races. So all of these runners still looking for their first Grade 1 and really looking to get away from sovereignty and journalism. It's been those two and everybody else in the 3-year-old ranks this year. Baeza probably the poster child for that. 3rd to those 2 in the Kentucky Derby, 3rd to the same pair in the Belmont Stakes. Last time out, Baeza was a good 2nd in the Jim Dandy behind Sovereignty. Sovereignty obviously looking at that race as a prep towards the Travers. He wasn't fully cranked that day, but Baeza gave him a pretty good run in the lane, Scott. Let's let the fans go back and relive the Jim Dandy, and then we'll talk about Baeza and how he stacks up against this year's Pennsylvania Derby field.
Made that bid but drops back, and then Sandman there at the top of the stretch. Sovereignty is up to take the lead. He and Baeza in close quarters, but Sovereignty has the upper hand in mid-stretch. Baeza is trying his best to cling to him, but it's Sovereignty and Junior Alvarado still on top and still with plenty left in the tank. Sovereignty scores in the Jim Dandy. Baeza ran lights out, but he ran into Sovereignty. It was a long way.
Now, Scott, one of the things when handicapping a race, I don't care if it's the Pennsylvania Derby or the 3rd at Tampa Bay Downs in the middle of the winter, one of the things I like is when there is a huge gap between 2nd and 3rd and betting the runner-ups back. I mean, when you see a huge gap 1st to 2nd, those horses get overbet the next time, right? A horse wins a race by 9, everybody jumps on them next time, even if they're stepping up in class. But when you run second to a good horse like that, and then there's a huge gap back to third, sometimes those performances aren't as noticeable in terms of the tote. We know Baeza is going to get bet in this spot. It's not necessarily a value play, but it's an underscore to the quality of the race, because in the Jim Dandy, it was 9 1/4 lengths back to the others in there. Hill Road and Company in third. That was a really good performance by Baeza, as Frank Miramati mentioned in the call.
Yeah, and I feel like it's been lost in the shuffle or lost with time. I feel like everybody thought that maybe like if Baeza is ever going to beat Sovereignty, it's got to be today, which might be very well true because he was coming off. But after he didn't, everybody kind of was, I don't want to say sour, but the shine came off, right? He was kind of the horse that people thought had some upside to beat the top 2 big dogs, and he didn't. But if you watch that race, to your point, not only was he close to a horse and it was way back to third, but it was Sovereignty. And they were finishing. I mean, and you look at the late pace ratings like we like to do. And I came into this race thinking I was going to maybe, this horse was going to take too much money for me. But I came out of my handicapping thinking I don't have any desire to try to beat him.
I agree. Another big triple-digit brisk late pace figure in a race where there is plenty of speed. And in fact, the horses who are overmatched in this race are horses that have a little bit of pace about them on top of it. So while they're not going to be around in the stretch, they could be around early to make things quicker. Out to Belly, cheap speed to the inside. So Sandy probably is going to want to be forwardly placed from the rail. We know Magnitude's got speed from the inside, and Mo Plex a lot of speed from the outside. So there's quality speed and cheap speed in here. They're in far divergent parts of the starting gate. So when they start crossing over, I mean, that usually quickens the pace. The outside horses got to go fast to cross over. The inside horses have to go fast to maintain their position into the first turn here, 1 1/8 at Parx. So this race is going to go quick, and I think that only benefits Baeza, and he should be awfully tough to beat. He's the son of Mackenzie, of course, who won the Pennsylvania Derby back in 2018 for trainer Bob Baffert. Baffert's won this race 4 times. He's got goal-oriented in here. Goal-oriented, maybe the second choice. I don't know. The morning line's got him listed second favorite. It is Irad Ortiz. It is Bob Baffert. There's kind of a lump, I think, underneath Baeza of 3 or 4 horses that look awfully similar in ability to me, and goal-oriented would be in that group. Certainly, if you're playing to win in this race, I think he's going to be an underlay in the win pool. What do you make of goal-oriented in this spot, coming off a race in the Haskell where he ran third, just a neck behind Gosger, who he gets a rematch with here?
Yeah, I can't see him being favored over Gosger. I can't see him taking more money than Gosger. I don't see why. I know Baffert and Irad, but that gets evened out as we know later in the wagering. That's not judged. The public isn't going to dictate wagering in this race as much as it's not the Kentucky Derby. So to me, goal oriented, he just really hasn't. Like, what's his way of winning this race? To me, I look at it. I see Irad taking over. So always, when a new jock is aboard, you always have to consider maybe new tactics. And maybe they're going to. When Baffert has been at his best, he just takes horses to the front when he chips to the East Coast. Maybe they're going to do that, but to me, that doesn't work in this spot. I mean, I don't think he's good enough to overcome what looks to be an early battle to do so. So I don't see how he outkicks the field, particularly Baeza. I think, obviously, if he runs a big race and hits the board, I won't be surprised. If he wins this race, I'll be a little bit surprised.
Interesting point. If you look at the workout tab, we talk about trainers who try to get a lot out of their horses. The Bafferts usually tip their hand when they're going to run a big one. September 12th at Santa Anita, 6 furlongs, 112-1. Decent work that day. Baeza worked the same morning, and John Sheriffs, who asks nothing of his horses in the morning, this horse working 111-3. I mean, worked 3 lengths faster than a Baffert runner. Go back 2 works, and Baeza working 59-2 at Del Mar. You just don't see that from the John Sheriff's trainees. That tells me Baeza is just sitting on tilt. I think he's going to run a big race. I'm not one to just lay on the favorites in here. And like you, when handicapping the race, when the past performances first come out, you come in with an open mind. The first thing you're trying to do is beat a favorite in any race. And I'm thinking, okay, Baeza's the name reputation horse. Let's get a horse who's kind of up and coming in here and beat him. But the pace scenario favors him. The way he's coming into the race looks outstanding. The late pace figures favor him. And the class is on paper. We know what he's run against so far. I don't see how he gets beat in here. If you get into an exacta and where you're trying to mix a horse and get horses in with him, I think Gosger is a very logical back end of this exacta. I know it's kind of chalky. Maybe Big Truz one to consider. David of Athens one to consider if you're looking underneath. But for me, it looks like Baeza and Gosger to me 1-2.
Well, I'm going to go with David of Athens as my play. Shockingly, it's Athens. I was corrected at another earlier this week. I don't know.
Is that
why.
right?
Yeah, I don't know why, but yep, and confirmed it. But he's the horse that I think has that upside, like you said, the up-and-comer. I mean, Gosger and Goal-Oriented are compared to Baeza, a little bit up-and-comers. Of course, they didn't run in the Kentucky Derby, but they've been running in these types of races. This is the true up-and-comer, and it's a big move forward. But he's really never run a bad race. He wins on debut in a field that included Patch Adams and included Camp Hale, who was a very fast but just didn't win right away for Ian Wilkes, but a very good-looking 2-year-old for that barn. And then obviously something goes wrong, and he comes back and he's wide and breaks slow at Churchill and backs it up with a huge effort at Ellis. Obviously, this is a huge step forward. But for Brendan Walsh to bring him along with Gosger, he doesn't need to have a horse in this race. He's not as a participant. I think it really spells well of how this horse is doing, that he's willing to give him this shot, because they could easily back off, let a lot of these top 3-year-olds, go to the sidelines and then pick up the pieces in some lesser races.
He won last out at Ellis Park by 7. Same with Big Truz, who won the Ellis Park Derby by 7. Both were ridden in their last starts by Tyler Gaffalione. And yet Tyler Gaffalione gets off the stakes experience Big Truz to take David of Athens in here. I think it's probably a pretty significant sign. So keep an eye on that. Pennsylvania Derby, maybe exotics horses to help fill it out.
I'll say one thing on that. I wouldn't read much into that, only because Brandon Walsh and Tyler have a long-standing situation, and Brian Lynch and Tyler, it's not the same. You know what I mean? So
but it's a grade
one. You're right, though. Grade one. Yeah.
If it's an allowance race, all things equal, all right. You go with the barn. But they must like this horse, and I think that the intent of running, like you said, they don't have to run because they have Gosger in here, so that tells you they like the horse. They being the connections, and then the fact that Gaffalione rides means he might like him too, and so certainly something to consider as your handicap in the PA Derby. To the Parx Sprint we go, race number 15 on the card. They're going all harness on us at Parx on Saturday, running a 15 race card, $150,000, 6.5 furlong sprint, a big field in here. So if you're looking at those multi-race wagers that end in this race, this is one that people are probably going to reach a little bit and spread in terms of numbers. If you think Baeza is a solid single in the Pennsylvania Derby, maybe that helps you budget-wise getting into this Parx Sprint. How do you see it, Scott?
I think this might be a sneaky spot to single, because everybody's going to probably want to, cover themselves a little bit. I think there's plenty of speed in here. I think there's 2 horses that look a little better than the rest, given the race shape and just in general on paper. I think Damon's Mound, who has a big shot, moving from an inside post finally to an outside post. But I really like Full Moon Madness and the trip he's going to get under IRAD in this spot. I think he's just going to he'll break fine. He's coming in fresh off a couple of decent works. And Michelle Nevin gets IRAD to ride back. And I think he isn't going to have to, ask his horse at all, while other horses will. And he'll just be able to inherit a very nice forward spot along the inside. I think it's going to make him tough to beat here if he's ready. He's got some huge races in the past. And it's really, to me, about, hopefully the trip works out. I got a good pilot, but more so if he's just ready off the layoff. And I think there's reasons to believe he should be.
Regally bred son of Into Mischief out of By the Moon at JMS Stable, Samantha Siegel, legacy runner. Of course, they campaigned By the Moon to a lot of success as well. Full Moon Madness under IRAD got there last time out at Delaware Park. Let's go back to the Alapocus Run Stakes.
Sunny Breeze is going to try to counter in second, and Full Moon Madness is crying out for room. They turn for home. Bucarina went very wide, battling Sunny Breeze the length of the stretch. Full Moon Madness is on full tilt mode, and Damon's Mound is closing in too. Bucarino is in for the fight of his life. Full Moon Madness is on attack mode. Here comes Full Moon Madness. Bucarino holding. Full Moon Madness surging. Full Moon Madness has won the Alapocus.
This might be one with the runner-up, or a horse who faded a little bit in that race, the Alapocas, the runner-up in there, Bucarino. This is the horse who might be able to bounce back for the locals over the home track here. You know, all the shippers are coming in. It's big stakes day. They're going to take almost all the money out of there. But Alfredo Velasquez has a locally based runner in there, Bucarino, who gets a home game now against a lot of the travelers. And that might be one where the home team can punch out, and you get Paco Lopez riding, who's just sensational at Parx, 25% winner over that track. And so Bucarino certainly will get Full Moon Madness another good run. They were neck apart last time. That could easily be the exacta. And a theme on the show so far today, a lot of these 1-2 rematches coming back where you can envision them running back the same way or even flipping the script a little bit. But both horses in these rematches look very competitive in the spots they're coming back in.
Yeah, and Bucarino, no knocks. He came back and did run a decent race on the turf, and then big race back on this course to prepare for this. I just thought he might get cooked up a little bit earlier. I was hoping that, but he's got a lot of good races under his belt, particularly over this surface. He was third in this race last year at 9-5.
Sprinters in the spotlight there at Parx. A couple of races, of course. We got the Parx Sprint and also the Gallant Bob. Sprinters are where we're going to go to Churchill Downs next as we move our hitch to Louisville, Kentucky for 3 stakes races to handicap. The Harrods Creek, first of those, 7/8 of a mile on the main track. They'll start out of the backstretch chute and hit the wire at Churchill Downs with that long stretch run. Jimmy's Daily is going to be Scott's top choice in here. Smoking Wicked's probably going to be a solid favorite at 8-5. Smoking Wicked back in the Amsterdam, 2 starts ago, looked like he could be anything. And then in the Allen Jerkins, it kind of the balloon popped on him. So let's go back and look at him at his best. And then you tell me, do we get the good Smoking Wicked or the one in the Jerkins that we couldn't find?
On the outside, Gunmetal moves into second. Macho Music is back to third. As they come to the furlong pole, Smoking Wicked means business. Opens up 2.5 on Gunmetal in second. Gate to wire down the center of the track, but Smoking Wicked is blowing them away in the Amsterdam. Smoking Wicked strolls home by almost 6 lengths. Gunmetal.
When he breaks, he's tough. When he's not, and he doesn't, he's not. So what do you make here in a field of 6 with Smoking Wicked?
Well, Dallas Stewart has done a great job with this Louisiana bred, only a $38,000 purchase. He has pulled this stump before with these Valin Farms runners. Dallas, one of the more fun guys to hang around when you're in Kentucky or Louisiana with the races. But this is a really good horse. I mean, I've got no major knocks on him, but it's been 4. This will be his 4th straight start, dating back to the late June, 7 starts since the late February. And maybe, you know, he didn't break last time. Maybe that just wasn't bad luck. Maybe he's just a little tired. And, you know, Dallas is not necessarily a guy that might, you know, he's spacing his races fine. I'm not accusing him of anything. But he's a Lucas, you know, he's in the Lucas school. He runs his horses.
Run him.
Maybe he's not going to get back to those top 2 efforts. And if he doesn't, this race becomes extremely wide open. And I think I've been, you know, following Jimmy's dailies a little bit, or a lot of it, really, throughout his career. He takes a ton of money on debut with Churchill, which is always noteworthy for Lynch horses. I mean, that's a barn where you kind of really know what they think of their horses by the code board. And then you don't see him for a while. He runs, you know, in a very live maiden special one by Tappan Street, and he really hasn't done much wrong other than being over his head in the Florida Derby. And I thought last time out off the bench, it was the Big Truz race, which you just spoke about, Ellis Park Derby. He was dominant. That's his stablemate. Jimmy's Daily's got a very passive ride from Mario Gutierrez. Had a little bit of trouble. Came on late without much urging. Now he gets Jose Ortiz second off the layoff. You cut back to a true sprint. I think Jimmy's Daily's is very live in the spot.
I like that. A little bit of a cutback, second off the layoff. Jose Ortiz. Yeah, I can see that. And Smoking Wicked is one of those horses, like you mentioned, you know, Dallas Stewart, the disciple of D. Wayne Lucas, run them. And sometimes with horses like that stay in their form cycle for a long time, they run in and out of good form. You know, they're feeling better for a period and they run well. And that's the way horses used to be trained. It's not so much anymore. And nowadays, like if you're going to get a horse to run well nowadays, people are like, okay, you got to give him a break, give him a break, and then bring him back freshened. But that's not the way that was done for a century until the last, a few years. So Dallas Stewart, old school approach there, and you're going to get some good performances and you're going to get some poor performances that way, but not afraid to run the horses. And Smoking Wicked, when he's good, he's really good. We'll see which version we get on Saturday. To race number 8 at Churchill, we'll go to the Seneca Stakes, $175,000 here. The Seneca is for 3-year-old fillies, going 1 mile and a 16th. Field of 7 in here. Quick Kick coming off a win in the Iowa Oaks. 6-5 that day. You don't close at Prairie Meadows. That's what I tell people. You don't close at Prairie Meadows. Watch this one close.
There goes Quick Kick, and she's made an eye-catching move from the back of the pack all the way into the second spot, but she's still 5, maybe 6 lengths behind Say You Can as they approach the final furlong. Say You Can now just needs another 16th and a half to go. Quick Kick is the only one with a chance to get her. She is gaining ground, but the wire's coming fast. Say You Can, Quick Kick, they hit it together in the Iowa Oaks. Was it Say You Can? Was it Quick Kick? They were way ahead of Paradise City, who finished 3rd.
It was Quick Kick, Bobby Newman with the call there. And look, that was an impressive performance, making up 6 in the final 16th of the mile. The winner wasn't completely laying over. This was a filly who was really reaching out and getting to her. Quick Kick will get a much longer stretch at Churchill Downs, 1,234 and a half feet worth of stretch there to the wires. So I think Quick Kick with the rally, if you get the setup, has a big chance of running them down in here. But there's not a ton of speed in this race. So she's not going to get the greatest race shape, I don't think, Scott. Do you like Quick Kick or somebody else?
Well, I think I like Quick Kick more than the favorite Immersive, who I don't know if they're going to be as far apart off the morning line, but Immersive always gets hammered. She's the former, the 2-year-old champ, right? That just hasn't had ideal trips the last couple and hasn't overcome them. Manny Franco will be off for the first time. You get for the Rancheroo, who, the Manny rides have been a little bit questionable, but I mean, Florent, very similar style of riding as Manny's gotten caught in. Maybe they're going to go with this filly, but I think she's seen the better days. So that was a big run from Quick Kick. But at 5-2 or less, she's got to prove it to me still at this oval or this circuit. Amos, though, continues to be on fire. But this is a race where I wanted to take an up-and-comer. I looked at a couple of them, and I thought that, just both those fillies were going to get overbet and might not be all that with a big resume. I like number 3, Ivory and Ebony, potentially to be that filly. I think this filly will be closer to the pace than it may look on paper. You mentioned the lack of speed. Even Liam in the Dust, who looks kind of like, oh, this is the filly on the lead. She's not really fast anymore, So
yeah, 47th, 48th.
Yeah, it's not going to take much to make the lead. That's why maybe Florent goes. But Ivory and Ebony ran a good race last out at Saratoga out of the Wilson Chute. 3rd off the layoff. You get the full stretch out now to 2 turns. May work, may not. But at the price, you get I like that you get Jose for Dale Romans. And, there's a lot of big riders out of town or not at Churchill that kind of come in and out with the big card. To get Jose this day might be meaningful.
I overlooked Immersive in here really, probably to a fault. She's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I know she was the 2-year-old champion last year and ran through everything, but her 2 starts this year, second place finishes at 2-5, at 3-5. I know she's faced tougher in terms of Scottish Lassie last time out in the Coaching Club Oaks, but I don't know where she's at. I really don't know where she's at, and I wouldn't want to take a short price, 6-5 on the line. I mean, if she wins, she wins, but I'd be against
spot too, right? I mean. 175,000. I mean, sure, you can make the case it's a confidence booster, but you could also make the case there were more ambitious spots.
She should be prepping towards a Breeders' Cup Distaff, right? I mean, if she's the 2-year-old champion, 3-year-old filly this time of year, Cotillion, okay, you've got the filly to run in the Cotillion, but you think Spinster or something like that with a filly like this if she's good. And like you said, she's in for 175 in an overnight stakes, the Seneca at Churchill on Saturday. We'll see where she gets, like what she gets back to, what she can get back to. She never ran super fast on speed figures. It's kind of the same thing with some of these other 3-year-old fillies we talked about, in this particular crop. So
that's why I'm taking swings. Yeah.
Yeah, take your swing in that one, I think, in the Seneca Stakes. Our final stakes race, 8th and final of the podcast, will be the Dogwood, Grade 3. Race number 9 on the card Saturday at Churchill Downs. These are 3-year-old fillies in here as well. I mean, they could have run immersive in Graded Stakes Company here if they wanted to cut her back. This is a spot, again, for a purse of, what do we got in here? $300,000. So, yeah. I mean, they could have just cut immersive back, run for $300,000 in a Grade 3, but again, going in that 175 around 2 turns. How do you see this one shaking out the Dogwood?
Yeah, good race. I mean, you got Echo Sound coming in, disappointed in the test as the favorite, but ran a couple of bang-up races prior to that, including the win on Preakness Day in the Ms. Preakness.
Yep.
Or is that on Black-Eyed Susan Day? Black-Eyed Susan Day, right?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah. And then you got Delightful Claire, who ran second in the prior S. I think might take a little more money than I'd be willing to accept. But to me, Ragtime is the one with the true upside in this race. There's not a lot of speed, which is a little concerning. But man, she finishes at a different level than this field. She got out-finished last time, but it was just a race that absolutely came apart. And that's why it's fair to make a case for Echo Sound, who was a part of that pace or stalking just off of the pace. But Ragtime is, to really come with an off-the-pace run in 3 straight 7 furlong races to kick off your career. And then for Bill Mott to take the blinkers off now, that tells me he's relaxing more in the morning and becoming more professional. Maybe that's wrong, but I feel like more of the time that's the case than not. So I like Ragtime here. It will not be a very big price, but we'll see. 2-1 on the line, Echo Sound 9-5.
Throughout its history, the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, there hasn't been an aversion of running to 3-year-olds against the elders in that race. So this Dogwood could produce a starter or two towards that Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. The test performers most likely would be the ones, if they can advance with a good effort here. Echo Sound, the beaten favorite, and Ragtime, like you mentioned, the rallying second-place finisher. Let's go back and take a look at the test, won by Kilwin, and a good second by Ragtime.
Coming into contention, it's Artisma. Beauty Reigns at the top of the stretch. And on the inside, Echo Sound in front. Beauty Reigns, center of the track. Ragtime is coming now to challenge for the lead. And even Kilwin in with a shot too. Ragtime takes the lead, has to fend off Kilwin, who just keeps on coming. Kilwin or Ragtime? Kilwin on the outside. Kilwin gets up under Jose Ortiz to win the test, presented by Ticketmaster in a thriller over Ragtime.
Got some great photo finish highlights on the podcast today. Frank Baramotti with the call there. That's going to wrap up our handicapping for Saturday. Again, huge day at Parx for Pennsylvania Derby Day. Big stakes day at Churchill. The sprinters in the spotlight in the Princess Rooney down at Gulfstream for the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. A lot of good action. Harness on Saturday night, the Mohawk Million. Be sure to check that out. We've got a $10 money back special on win bets, finishing second and third in select stakes races at Woodbine Mohawk on Saturday night if you're playing those harness races. Allison Magley will have you covered on the harness side for sure at the blog section at expressbet.com. Scott, I'll give you the final word on a PA weekend.
Yeah, some prices I think available in some of these races, although I've said that before. Hopefully it doesn't chalk out, although at least on those days when it does chalk out, you usually see some big performances from some cool horses. But either way, a lot of good opportunities on First Bet and Express Bet, and wish you and everybody luck.
All right. On behalf of Scott and our host emeritus, Jeff Siegel, best wishes to Jeff. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.